Something happened in a Beverly Hills hotel bathroom that perfectly sums up everything you need to know about Meghan Markle in 2026. And the contrast it throws up against Princess Catherine is so stark, so breathtaking in its clarity, that I genuinely had to sit down with a strong cup of Yorkshire Gold and collect myself before I could say a word about it. Two women, two very different ideas of what public life is for, and the gap between them has never been wider or more illuminating than it is right now. The Duchess of Sussex walked into the ladies' room at the Alliance for Children's Rights Gala at the Beverly Wilshire on the 19th of March, spotted two women recording a TikTok video, and proceeded to film it and post the whole thing to her Instagram the following morning, set to Olivia Dean's song Ladies' Room, with a caption apologising for crashing their party. Now, one would like to take all of this completely at face value. One genuinely would. But here is the thing that keeps nagging at me, the thing that I cannot quite set aside no matter how many times I try. If Meghan Markle had simply stumbled into that bathroom and kept walking, nobody would have known it happened. The only reason any of us are discussing it today is because she filmed it and posted it herself. The spontaneous moment that was apparently too wonderful not to share was then packaged, scored with a carefully chosen soundtrack, and published to her personal brand account the following morning. That is not spontaneity. That is content production with a ladies' room as the set. And you may think I am being frightfully uncharitable, and perhaps you are partly right, but this woman has form, and rather a lot of it. This is the same Duchess who was photographed bending the corners of book pages in an Instagram story just days earlier. A habit that might seem perfectly ordinary until you remember that her lifestyle brand sells its own bookmarks, two of them in fact, at $18 each. One reading "Fell asleep here" and the other "Hold that thought," written in her own cursive handwriting and sitting on a website while she dogged her pages on camera. There are only two possible explanations for that, and neither of them is particularly flattering. Either she forgot entirely that she sells bookmarks, which tells you something about the depth of her investment in her own brand, or she remembered perfectly well and thought nobody would notice, which tells you something else entirely. And this brings me to something that has been discussed rather seriously by body language analysts who have looked at her public appearances, including this one. Scott Rouse, a respected behaviour expert who has consulted for law enforcement, the military and major corporations, has spent considerable time examining Harry and Meghan's most scrutinised moments, focusing on cutting through narrative spin and looking at what people are actually communicating through their behaviour. What analysts looking at moments like this bathroom encounter tend to describe is a distinction between a smile that reaches the eyes and one that does not quite get there. The timing, the micro expressions that flash before the performance catches up with itself. One cannot declare definitively what was in Meghan's heart on the night of the 19th of March, and I would not try to, but one is absolutely in a position to notice that the entire sequence, from entering the bathroom to filming the moment, to selecting a song, to writing a caption and publishing it the following morning, represents a considerable number of deliberate choices, none of which is consistent with something simply being too good not to share. The relentless pursuit of relatability is the defining quality of the Sussex project at this point, and it has become rather painful to observe. Every moment must be a moment. Every bathroom encounter must be a lesson in authentic womanhood. Every book must be held at a specific angle in natural light. The effort required to perform effortlessness at this sustained pitch is, if you stop and really think about it, absolutely exhausting. And I say that with something approaching genuine sympathy, because the tragedy of it, the thing that makes me rather sad underneath the exasperation, is that performing warmth at this level of calculation is precisely what prevents any of it from landing as genuinely warm. When experts look at Meghan's smile in moments like these, at the shaking of hands, at the watching and cheering with eyes that are simultaneously tracking the camera angle, what they tend to describe is a distinction between a smile that reaches the eyes and one that does not quite get there. You are being shown something rather than being met by someone, and that distinction matters enormously. Because here is what happened in Aldershot on the 17th of March. And I want you to hold these two images in your mind at the same time. Princess Catherine, Colonel of the Irish Guards, turned up at Mons Barracks in a long dark green coat with a wide collar and matching hat, carrying a little woven basket, and spent her morning crouching down to talk to a 7-year-old girl named Ella, presenting sprigs of shamrock to the regiment one by one, scratching the ears of a rather enormous Irish wolfhound named Seamus, and then sitting with the soldiers over a half pint of Guinness, talking to them about the difficulty of managing family life while on deployment. Not performing that conversation, having it. And then she put money behind the bar for the troops before she left. The regiment was formed by Queen Victoria in 1900, and the Irish Guards have spent recent years training members of the Ukrainian armed forces, with more than 200 guardsmen deployed across 13 different countries. Catherine wore the regimental badge on her lapel. She knows the history. She has learnt it because she considers it worth learning. And one has to pause on that for a moment, because it illuminates something rather profound about what genuine preparation for public life actually looks like. Catherine has spent years absorbing the specific histories of the regiments she serves, the charities she patronises, the communities she visits. When she crouches down to speak to a 7-year-old child at a barracks, she is not doing so because a communications team identified it as a good visual. She is doing so because somewhere along the way, she became the kind of woman who actually wants to know what that child's name is and whether she travelled a long way to be there. That is a disposition of character. You cannot produce it in post. There were no sponsored soundtracks. There was no carefully timed Instagram upload the following morning. There was simply a future queen doing what future queens are trained and trusted to do, which is to show up fully, in the cold, among people who serve this country and be genuinely present with them. That is not a performance. You can feel the difference. I think what frustrates me most, what has been quietly frustrating me for years now, is the fundamental misunderstanding at the heart of the Sussex Project about what makes a person worth admiring. The assumption appears to be that if you can show people enough curated glimpses of your real life, your bathroom moments and your barefoot dancing and your dog-eared poetry books, they will eventually feel close to you. They will like you. They will buy your products. But closeness is not manufactured by content. It is earned by showing up in service of something that is not yourself. Catherine crouching in the wind at a military barracks is not a relatable moment designed for viral consumption. It is a woman doing her job with her whole self. And the difference is written all over the photograph. The deeply ironic thing about this particular bathroom video, and I have been turning this over like a stone in my pocket, is that Meghan interrupted what sounds like a genuinely lovely and spontaneous moment that two women were having entirely for themselves. And by posting it, by making it part of her public narrative, she rather changed what that moment was. Those two women became supporting cast in a Duchess story. Whether they minded or not is between them and their cameras. But the instinct to absorb the moment rather than leave it alone is, I think, rather revealing. Everything becomes material. Everything can be framed. Britain has always understood the difference between leaders who serve and performers who merely appear to. And the reason Princess Catherine commands the affection she does, the reason the sight of her standing in the Aldershot wind in that green coat with those shamrocks and that Irish wolfhound makes this country proud right down to the marrow, is that she has consistently chosen the harder and less glamorous version of public life. She went through chemotherapy and came back not to a Netflix special, but to a St. Patrick's Day parade. And when offered a drink at a brewery visit, she mentioned quietly that she has not had much alcohol since her diagnosis, not to generate headlines, but simply because someone asked. She patted her husband on the knee and told him he likes his cider. It was a Tuesday morning in southeast England, and she was fully, unguardedly there. There is a version of the life Meghan chose that could have been exactly that. It is worth saying plainly, the warmth she is trying so hard to manufacture in video after video was freely available to her within an institution that has perfected the art of genuine public presence over centuries. She might have learnt from it. She might have grown into it. She chose something else, and now she is spending a very great deal of energy attempting to build in a California hotel bathroom what she walked away from in a palace. And for all the production value and all the careful caption writing and all the song choices, it still does not quite hold together, because the real thing always shows up the imitation. And the real thing is standing in the cold in Aldershot, crouching down to chat with a child named Ella, perfectly at home in a world she has committed herself to body and soul. A world built not on content strategy, but on centuries of something far more durable: duty, freely and fully chosen. That, to my mind, is what public life looks like when it is lived rather than curated. And that is why, for all the noise and all the content and all the carefully apologetic Instagram posts, one woman is beloved and the other is still searching for the formula. The formula, incidentally, does not exist. It never did. The women who earn the lasting respect of this nation earn it the old-fashioned way, through cold mornings and kept commitments and a willingness to be genuinely rather than theatrically present. Britain has always known the difference between the two, and no amount of well-chosen background music is going to change that.